Okay, and one last question.
Are you a preservationist?
Do you think of yourself as a preservationist?
Are you a preservationist?
A preservationist.
A preservationist.
Why or why not?
That's a hard one.
I don't know if I consider myself to be a preservationist or not. I think it's important to preserve where we come from, absolutely. That's why I think the reward of all history is the understanding of modern times. So yeah, preservation is important.
Yeah, I guess I do consider myself a preservationist. There are definitely some aspects that I've seen change in Austin that are kind of worrisome.
I could be considered by some as a preservationist. I don't know if I'd give myself that title, but I believe these days that growth should pay for itself in Austin. If Austin's going to grow, it's okay, but it shouldn't be at the expense of the people who have been here and made it home.
I don't know if I would call myself a preservationist. That's a term that I would never think of in thinking about myself.
I definitely consider myself a preservationist because I strongly believe in not throwing out old things or reusing old things, whether it be a house, a vehicle, tools, supplies. So kind of recycling is my take on preservation.
But I choose to live in an older Central City neighborhood. I live in a home that was built in 1919, and I really love that I have a space that is and I want to work to maintain that.
I think I consider myself a preservationist because
your community is so much a part of your identity. It's really self-preservation. So I guess if you get down to the root of it, it's very self-centered and self-motivated. But
I like to gather stories. I like to pass them on, and I support any efforts to preserve places that have history. And history and stories, they sort of go hand in hand. You can't really have one without the other.
I consider myself to be a preservationist. I don't care as much. I do care about old buildings. I don't care about that as much as preserving the sense of community. And of course, one of the ways to do that is through the buildings themselves, through the history.
I would say I am somewhat of a preservationist, but I do believe in change. I do, however, not feel that every change is good.
In a sense, I consider myself a preservationist. I really would hate to see what I used to know as Austin become a gentrified corporation.
Okay, I do, because I would like to preserve what we have, because little by little it has been taken away from us, from my family, from my neighbors, you know, and they need, and so I would call myself preservationist, like it's my house.
I consider myself, what?
Do I consider myself a preservationist?
A preservationist because
I would say absolutely, absolutely.
Being an interior designer with my client, we recycle a lot of basically old furniture and just anything old, and we recycle it to make it new. So I don't know, it's just very important to just keep the old things in.
I do love the flavor of a town.
Well, I mean, the new is good, but keeping the old around is amazing.
I would absolutely say I was a preservationist.
Yeah, I am. Is that good?
That's a good question.
I think the old saw about those who don't understand their history are doomed to repeat it is embodied in restoration and preservation, both preservation of the natural environment and the built environment. We can't understand where we came from and where we are if we don't save the way of life that we came from.
I do consider myself a preservationist in the sense that I would like to see things that have been important to me and that I've seen affect people live on for future generations, so that they have similar experiences or the opportunity to have similar experiences and be moved by some of the important qualities of the city.
Well, I do consider myself a preservationist, and that goes back to my love of history. And history is not only in books, it's not only on the internet, it should also be on the ground and in the streets.
Preservationist of what? I can't really consider myself a preservationist because I don't really know what a preservationist is.
I never thought about that. I guess in the strict term, you know, as in like what y'all do, no, I never thought I did.
I mean, whether I have the academic background to be a preservationist, I'm not sure, but I have the heart to be one, so.
I guess in terms of traditions, like family traditions, ancestral traditions, excuse me, yes.
I'm not sure if I would consider myself a preservationist exactly.
I don't consider myself a preservationist, largely because I've never thought of it.
But I definitely do believe that it is important to conserve or preserve some of the historic structures that we have and some of the older neighborhoods.
Do I consider myself a preservationist?
I do consider myself a preservationist. I love to travel, and so I love seeing other cultures and see how the world is changing around you, yet some things do stay the same in a wonderful way. And it's great because anytime I come back to Austin, I notice that here as well.
I get really angry when I drive down the Greenbelt and I see new building X and building Y, and I'm like, why? Why those buildings along there? It makes me so mad, but I don't do enough about it to call myself a preservationist, unfortunately.
Do I consider myself a preservationist?
I am a preservationist because I can say that back when I was young, I didn't really appreciate the history, learning it in school. And as I got older, I really could see that how sometimes history can actually repeat itself.
In idealism and in the way I feel, I don't know how much of my actions support that, but
well, my mother has always been a strong advocate, and that's just the way I was raised. And also I think history is a really important thing. I mean, some people wonder why we teach history in schools, but we know why. I mean, we can always learn from it and build upon it.
Well, I personally am trying to reconnect with the lifestyle of a couple generations ago. That's why I'm at the farmer's market. That's why I'm learning how to make my own soap and things like that. And so making sure we don't lose a lot of those stories and a lot of those skills and a lot of those even buildings, which buildings are a manifestation of all those things. So it's important to keep those there.
I would say yes. I do consider myself a preservationist because I really love once again, kind of that marriage of new modern ideas with just the history and the age and the stories. And
I am a preservationist, but I think it's a different reason in the way people normally think.
I do believe that preserving places in the city and preserving buildings is a really important and tangible way to have people understand how cities change over time and what the place they live is and how it came to be that way.
I think that when people hear the word preservation, sometimes they think of it and sort of maybe it's the things it doesn't want to do, like it doesn't want to progress or it doesn't want to move forward. But I think that we have so much wisdom and lessons tucked inside the things that make Austin really special.
I really feel that keeping, whether it's the architecture or just the vibe of a place, the historic integrity intact is really what makes places worth going to and places worth living in.
There's something about that wisdom or that spirit from that place or person that grabbed people and kept us talking and said, what is so special about Barton Springs, or what is it about the Greenbelt, or what is it about quacks? Like, why do people constantly bring this up in conversation?
Kind of that understanding of change is a really important education as important part of your education as a citizen, so that you can understand how you can participate or voice your opinion for how you think the city should change in the future.
That's why we're all so pumped to live here, is because it's already been, this gift has been prepared for us, and we want to treat this gift well and eventually pass on to someone else. We don't want to make so much of our mark that it stamps out everything. We want to, you know, keep on adding to this gift that we've been given. So that's why I'm a preservationist.